Sunday, 13th of September 2015. You are listening to the paper headlines on AthavanEnglish.com, read by Fatima Sharika. First, let's look at the paper headlines from Sunday Observer. Paranagama Commission probes abduction claims. 5-member team visit military camps in North. 19,000 complaints lodged with Commission. The investigative team of the Paranagama Missing Persons Commission recently visited military camps in the North to interview the officers and verify claims of abductions in the run-up to the UNHRC sessions in Geneva. A senior official said the 5-member team comprising retired police officers supervised by a retired High Court judge has been entrusted with digging deep into the cases of abductions, which needs further investigation before any recommendations are made to the President. The team was appointed after the commissioners pointed out that they needed an expert team to verify some of the claims made by the relatives of missing persons. The investigators also called over the Velikada prison a week before to interview the LTTE detainees in prison. A total of over 19,000 complaints from the North as well as the South will be investigated before their final report is issued, the official said. Another headline from Sunday Observer. Ranil leaves for India, first official overseas visit. Sri Lankan Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe will make his first official trip overseas today to the Indian capital New Delhi. His visit is made at a critical time, just 3 days before a much-awaited report on Sri Lanka's human rights record is to be taken up by the international rights community in Geneva. The visiting premier is expected to formally request for India's support in Geneva. Among key issues to be discussed between Wickremesinghe and his Indian counterpart Narendra Modi are the devolution of power under the 19th Amendment, aspects of the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, the unresolved fishermen's issue, and Indian Ocean security. More headlines from Sunday Observer. Ragna Lanka workers used for MR's campaign. Second public hearing next week. More witnesses will be summoned to give evidence during the second public hearing on allegations against state-owned Ragna Araksha Lanka Limited, scheduled for September 17th and 18th by the Commission of Inquiry to investigate and inquire into serious acts of fraud, corruption and abuse of power, state resources and privileges. Commission Secretary Leslie De Silva said witnesses will appear before High Court judges Padman Surasena, Amendra Senaviratna, Wikum Kalwarachi, Gihan Kulatunga and former Auditor General B.A. Premathilaka. The first public hearing was held on September 3rd and 4th when evidence supported that hundreds of Ragna Lanka employees had been deployed in Kotte, Dehiwala, Kolonnawa and Maharagama areas for the presidential campaign of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa. Over 10 witnesses gave evidence in support of the allegation of deploying workers for campaign work during the 2 days. Another headline from Sunday Observer. CC appointees to get House nod on September 22nd. The National Unity Government last week finalized the nominations to the 10-member Constitutional Council with a view to urgently reactivating the 11 independent commissions that come under the CC. The names of civil society representatives are to be submitted to Parliament for sanction by September 22nd, highly placed sources said, adding that this will result in the immediate reactivation of the CC. Civil society representatives nominated to the CC are Dr. A.T. Aryaratna, founder Sarvodaya Movement, Dr. Radhika Kumaraswamy, former Under-Secretary General of the United Nations Special Representative for Children and Armed Conflict, and Shibli Aziz, President's Council. Another headline from Sunday Observer. Top ministers to be grilled over IT and fiasco. Several top ministers and parliamentarians are to be grilled in the coming weeks over the alleged non-recovery of payment from former President Mahinda Rajapaksa owed to state-run independent television network for publicity over the network during the 2014-2015 presidential election campaign. The alleged financial manipulation amounting to Rs 115 million is currently being investigated by the Commission of Inquiry into serious acts of fraud, corruption and abuse of power, state resources and privileges. More headlines from Sunday Observer. Rosie appointed PM's media spokesperson. Former State Minister for Child Affairs Rosie Senanayake has been appointed Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe's media spokesperson and the Deputy Chief of Staff of the Prime Minister's office. Senanayake confirmed she had accepted the posts and will be assuming duties early next week. I have been working on issues of children and women for a long time, and I believe being appointed as the Deputy Chief of Staff, I will be able to continue with it much more effectively, she said. Now let's move on to the paper headlines from the Sunday Times. UNHRC report, no names but strong indictments. Sri Lanka faces tough international challenge as Geneva sessions begin. Government to propose 2-year roadmap. The biggest international challenge for Sri Lanka will unfold in the coming week as the UN Human Rights Council receives the findings of the probe into alleged war crimes by troops and tiger gorillas. A copy of the report, which has already been provided to the government of Sri Lanka, is being kept a close secret until it's formally placed on the UNHRC's official website anytime next week. However, diplomatic sources say the probe team has made strong indictments against both the troops and the guerrillas over perpetrated war crimes. Though no politicians or those who were in combat have been named, these sources said identification of those involved was not difficult since reference was being made in the findings to the chain of command with the identification of areas where violations occurred. Another headline from the Sunday Times. Formula coming. Oil price reduction soon. Minister. A new pricing formula taking into consideration the international fuel price reduction is to be submitted to the President soon, Petroleum Minister Chandima Weerakodi said. He said the formula would be discussed with the Finance Ministry before implementation. More headlines from the Sunday Times. SEPA talks during Ranil Modi summit. The proposed comprehensive economic partnership agreement between Sri Lanka and India, stalled over the years due to protests from Sri Lankan industrialists, is likely to figure in the talks between Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe during his 3-day visit. Another headline from the Sunday Times. Ministry Secretaries, no change in extension policy. The practice of allowing Ministry Secretaries to continue over the retirement age of 60 on a recommendation of the President will remain unchanged, officials said. The Sunday Times learns that Foreign Secretary Chitrangani Wagiswara is among those who have been given an opportunity to continue after reaching the retirement age. She turns 60 next week. An official explained that only the President could extend the term of service of an officer after the retirement age. Their services, experience, and the non-availability of the replacement are among the criteria taken into consideration, he added. Meanwhile, a number of Sri Lanka Administrative Service officers who were appointed as Ministry Secretaries in January following the presidential election have been overlooked during the fresh round of appointments this week. Another headline from the Sunday Times. Mega Police Authority to redesign Kendi, Gaul, Trincomalee, Jaffna towns. A mega police authority with powers of redesigning 4 main towns outside the Western Province is to be set up under the purview of the newly established Ministry of Megapolis and Western Province Development. Another headline from the Sunday Times. Ministry subjects and functions to be worked out within a week. The allocations of subjects and functions to ministers and state ministers will be finalized within a week, the President's office source said. Even though 43 cabinet ministers and 19 state ministers have been appointed, the areas which will come under their purview have not yet been finalized due to the last-minute hitches in the allocation of subjects and functions in a manner that they don't overlap, the official said. There are several cabinet and state ministers who have been entrusted with the same subjects, and hence the different institutions coming under these ministries will have to be divided between the cabinet minister and the state minister, the source said. And thus from the Sunday Times. Now let's move on to the paper headlines from Ceylon today. 1,000 T-56 guns given to paramilitary group. CID to arrest rebel turned politico. The Criminal Investigation Department has uncovered information regarding a large number of T-55 rifles and pistols given to a paramilitary group by the previous government. CID sources said a former paramilitary leader who later took to politics has come under CID investigation and surveillance after details of this huge weapons transfer had surfaced. Top officials of the former regime had authorized the transfer of nearly 1,000 T-50 rifles in addition to pistols to this paramilitary group, the source added. Another headline from Ceylon today. The body of Prabhakaran shown on TV was not him, former Indian naval commando. India was not given a proper death certificate till today. Sri Lanka says Prabhakaran was presumed dead. No proper fingerprint and a DNA test was conducted. India asked for the samples to test the DNA, but Sri Lanka never gave it to be tested in India. Prabhakaran, his wife and daughter may have been killed in the white van ambushed by troops. Chennai-based man of many faces, Professor Emeritus, best known as Kargil M. Subramaniam, former Indian Naval Marine Commando involved in covert operations for India, claims that the body of the man exposed as LTTE leader Prabhakaran was in fact not him, and that there were more chances that Prabhakaran, his wife and daughter may have been killed in the white van that was ambushed a few days before the final day of the war by the Sri Lankan troops. In an exclusive interview with Ceylon Today, Professor Subramaniam, who also served as an official of the Indian Research and Analysis Wing, explained the reasons why India was not given a proper death certificate and a DNA test was not carried out in Sri Lanka or in India till today. A civil engineer by profession, Professor Subramaniam was in Sri Lanka to undertake the building of the Sapugaskanda fertilizer factory, which was closed down by former President J.R. Jayawardena. You listen to the paper headlines on AthavanEnglish.com. Thank you for listening. Have a pleasant day.